Welcome, everyone, to today's Explainer. We are literally mapping out an epic military travelogue straight from the pages of the Mahabharata. We're going to follow Prince Sahadeva, one of the legendary Pandava brothers, as he marches his massive army south. His whole mission? To conquer kingdoms and collect immense tribute for his brother King Yudhisthira's grand Rajasuya sacrifice. And, this isn't just some dry list of ancient battles. It's a genuinely fascinating journey that pushes the boundaries of the known world, blending actual, real-world geography with absolutely incredible mythology. Okay, let's dive into this, because this question right here is the beating heart of today's Explainer. You see, Sahadeva's campaign is rolling along smoothly until he hits a force that conventional weapons simply cannot touch. We're going to look at exactly what happens when human ambition collides head-on with divine power, and how the ancient texts resolve that incredible tension. Section 1. The march south begins. To really understand the scale of the obstacle he eventually faces, we first need to look at the sheer momentum he builds right out of the gate. Tracking his rapid descent from Indraprastha, Sahadeva is an absolute juggernaut. He completely vanquishes the Surasenas right at the outset. He brings the king of Matsya under his sway, defeats mortal kings like Dantavakra, and gets Kuntibhoja to willingly accept his role. Moving down toward the banks of the Narmada River, he crushes the heroic kings of Avanti, Vinda and Anuvinda, exacting massive wealth from them. He's just sweeping through the continent, allying with some, defeating others, and building this totally unstoppable momentum. And get this, it wasn't just human kings he faced. Down at the celebrated caves of Kishkindhya, it took exactly 7 days of non-stop, fierce fighting against the illustrious monkey kings Mainda and Dwivida. But here's the crazy part. The text notes that these monkey kings were never even tired. After 7 days, they were simply gratified by Sahadeva's prowess. They joyfully yielded, offered their tribute, and basically told him to go forth and accomplish his brother's mission without hindrance. Up to this point, Sahadeva is practically invincible. Let's move to see how this builds in Section 2, Battle at Mahishmati. Because that unstoppable momentum we just talked about, it's about to hit a massive, blazing brick wall. Sahadeva arrives at Mahishmati and does battle with King Nila. But the encounter immediately turns exceedingly bloody and terrible, and Sahadeva's own life is suddenly at immense risk. Why? Well, because he isn't just fighting King Nila. The literal god of fire, Agni, is actively assisting the king. Sahadeva's army, the armor, the chariots, the elephants, everything appeared to be on fire. His troops are struck with absolute panic. For the very first time in his entire campaign, Sahadeva is completely frozen, unsure of what to do. Section 3, Agni's bizarre backstory. Now, you might be wondering, why on earth is this supreme god of fire acting as the personal defense system for this specific mortal city? The text actually pauses the battle to give us this incredible lore. And this brilliantly illustrates how ancient texts used myth to explain and validate local cultural phenomena. The story goes that Agni, disguised as a Brahmana, fell madly in love with King Nila's exceedingly beautiful daughter. When King Nila found out, he was furious and ordered the Brahmana punished. But then, Agni flamed up in divine wrath. The terrified King Nila immediately bowed down and bestowed his daughter to the fire god. In return, a highly pleased Agni granted the city 2 very specific boons. First, a military boon guaranteeing Nila's troops would never panic and any invader would be consumed by fire. Second, a deeply unique social boon, granting the women of Mahishmati complete sexual liberty, allowing them to roam at will unbound to a single husband. It's just a fascinating glimpse into how mythology provides a cosmic origin story for both the military reputation and the distinct social customs of a real-world region. Section 4, Appeasing the Fire God. Let's bring this right back to the battlefield. Sahadeva is watching his army burn, and he knows physical force is totally useless against a deity. So, instead of raising his weapons, Sahadeva just stands there, immovable as a mountain. He purifies himself with water and begins a devoted, highly poetic prayer, addressing Agni by his sacred titles. He calls him Pavaka, the sanctifier of all things. He calls him Havyavahana, the carrier of the clarified butter poured during sacrifices. He evokes Jataveda, acknowledging Agni as the very reason the Vedas exist to minister to him. He calls him Chetrapanu, the chief of the gods. Sahadeva is demonstrating absolute humility here. He reminds Agni that this entire military campaign is for a Rajasuya sacrifice, an event designed to ultimately gratify Agni himself. He begs the fire god not to obstruct a sacred rite. So the crucial point is, the devotion worked. Agni approaches the prince quietly and gives him this incredible assurance. "Oh, rise up, I was only trying thee." The fire god was literally just testing Sahadeva's resolve, his piety, and his understanding of divine hierarchy. Agni declares he will protect the city as long as Nila's line rules, but he grants Sahadeva the desires of his heart. The flames vanish. King Nila, at the command of the deity, worships Sahadeva and pays the tribute. It's a really beautiful resolution where human humility overcomes divine wrath.
Section 5. Monsters, Monkeys, and Kings.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the geography becomes increasingly fantastical the further from the Kuru heartland he travels. With the ultimate blessing of fire behind him, Sahadeva's pace dramatically accelerates as he pushes even further into the deep south. He subdues major kings like Akriti of Saurashtra and Rukmin of Bojakata, but then he encounters the coastal and mountain tribes. The Kalamukas, described as a fierce cross between human beings and Rakshasas, the Karakas, a wild tribe of men with only one leg. The text even mentions cannibals among the Nishadas. We are clearly moving out of the realm of standard kingdoms and straight into a legendary bestiary, which is a massive testament to how the ancient world viewed the unexplored, distant edges of the map. Section 6. Reaching the Southern Sea. Finally, the travelogue brings us to its ultimate resolution, as Sahadeva arrives at the very edge of the earth, the shores of the Southern Sea. Here, he doesn't even need to fight. He simply dispatches messengers across the water to the illustrious Vibhishana, the legendary Rakshasa king of Lanka. And what happens? Vibhishana willingly accepts Sahadeva's sway. The text tells us that this intelligent and exalted king regarded it all as the act of time. Recognizing the shifting epochs and the divine mandate behind the Pandavas, Vibhishana sends magnificent tribute, diverse jewels, gems, precious sandalwood, celestial ornaments, and valuable pearls. Having subdued the entire continent from the Central Plains all the way to the legendary island of Lanka, an immensely wealthy and successful Sahadeva returns to King Yudhisthira in Indoprestha. As we look back at his epic journey, it really leaves us with a provocative question. I mean, we've tracked real rivers like the Narmada and real regions like Avanti, right alongside one-legged men and literal fiery battles with a god. So where exactly does history end and myth begin? It shows us how these ancient epics masterfully weave reality, cultural memory, and myth into a single, breathtaking narrative canvas. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.